He set on a path to trap the most ruthless assassin to redeem himself. The plan looked good on paper, ignoring the ruthless members of this assassin syndicate, who will destroy his family on that particular day. Welcome back to Paramount Recapped. I don't have many subscribers, but your single comment is a ray of hope to motivate me.
Where's my son?
The story kicks off with Frank, a super efficient hitman who's been around the block more than a few times, landing a fresh job. This time, the target's no small fry. He's a billionaire. Frank doesn't waste any time and quickly pulls his crew together for a hush-hush meeting. They're in a dimly lit spot, maps and photos spread out, planning every little detail about how they're going to take this guy out. While they're going over the plan, one of the crew members, Davis, raises a red flag. He's worried there's no plan B in case things don't go their way. But Frank, cool as ever, brushes it off. "Trust me, nothing's going to go wrong," he says with that smug confidence. He then tells everyone to book flights under different names and travel separately to avoid suspicion. Meanwhile, over in Washington, there's this guy named Ray. He's an ex-cop trying to live a quiet life, but things at home aren't exactly smooth. A local officer drops by to talk about Ray's son getting into some trouble again. Later, Ray tries to have a heart-to-heart with the kid, telling him it's time to straighten up and fly right. But the kid lashes out, still bitter and blaming Ray for his mom's death. It's a tough moment, but Ray doesn't let it push him away. He convinces the kid to go camping with him to reconnect and maybe fix what's broken between them. Back to Frank. He and Davis carry out their first hit. They catch the billionaire off guard and shove him right into oncoming traffic. It's brutal, and just like that, the billionaire's gone. No witnesses. After that, Frank lays low by renting a house through a local real estate agent. Later that night, he hops into his car, ready to move on to the next step of their mission. He checks in with his crew, letting them know Phase 1 was a success. But then, something totally unexpected happens. As Frank is driving, another motorist, distracted by something or other, causes a crash. Frank's car bursts into flames, and he's knocked out cold. An ambulance rushes him to the ER. Once there, doctors are prepping for surgery when they find a gun on him. Red flags go up fast. They alert the cops immediately. When Frank comes to, he's groggy and handcuffed to a hospital bed, staring into the face of a no-nonsense police chief. The chief has already done his homework. He knows Frank's ID is fake, and his prints match those of a former Black Ops assassin. They press Frank about why he's in town, but he keeps his mouth shut. Before leaving, the chief posts 2 officers outside the room with strict orders. Nobody gets in or out. Elsewhere in town, an FBI agent swings by the NSA office to talk about Frank. Turns out, Frank's background has got some people high up very interested. Once the NSA agent hears who Frank really is, she immediately calls a bigwig named Miles. He's clearly someone powerful. She lets him know Frank's cover is blown. Miles doesn't like surprises. He tells her to shut it all down before it gets out of hand. Back in the hospital, Frank spots his chance. When a nurse checks on him, he swipes her phone without her noticing and sends a quick message to the crew. The moment his team gets the update, chaos erupts. They argue about what to do next. Davis is all for cutting Frank loose. Thinks he's a liability now, but others remind him there's no payday unless Frank gets out alive. Meanwhile, the news breaks about the billionaire's assassination. Ray and his kid, unaware of the bigger drama unfolding, are having breakfast and loading up for their camping trip. They hit the road, heading deep into the woods. What they don't know is that Frank is also on the move. Cops are transporting him through the same isolated area. Suddenly, a massive truck blocks their path. The officers stop to investigate, and right then, all hell breaks loose. One of the officers gets shot out of nowhere. It's an ambush. Frank seizes the chaos, wrestling the other officer as the car swerves off the road and tumbles into a river. Even underwater, the fight continues. Frank manages to overpower the cop, grabs his gun, and shoots him. He then drags the wounded man out of the car, trying to get both of them to safety. At that exact moment, Ray and his son spot them from a nearby bridge. Without hesitation, Ray dives into the water to help. He gets both men out of the river. The officer, barely hanging on, tells Ray that Frank is a dangerous prisoner and needs to be restrained. Ray tries to do just that, grabbing the gun, but Frank puts up a fight. Ray still gets the upper hand. Just when things start to settle, the officer dies from his injuries. Ray's stuck in a weird spot. He's got a mysterious man, a dead cop, and no clear idea what to do next. He tells his son to call 911, but there's no cell service in the middle of nowhere. With no options, Ray decides to walk Frank toward the highway where he might find signal. But Frank warns him, "Bad idea. My crew is out there and they're armed." He even threatens to take them out if Ray doesn't let him go. Surprisingly, Ray's son agrees with Frank. He wants to let him go and avoid trouble. But Ray's not budging. They start moving again, winding through the woods, trying to find a road. Meanwhile, Frank's team stumbles on the dead officer and realizes Frank may not have drowned. They find fresh footprints. They figure someone must have taken him hostage. As they try to piece things together, another group of supposedly helpful officers arrives. But they're not who they say they are. Ray's son spots one of them pulling a gun on another cop and quickly realizes these guys are dirty. He runs back to warn his dad. Ray, now even more cautious, climbs a hill trying to find signal, but sees Frank's crew nearby. Worried they'll cross paths, he takes Frank and his son down an alternate trail. At the same time, Frank's team gets suspicious. They argue with the corrupt cops and agree to split up, some on foot, one in a vehicle. Davis, driving alone, contacts Miles and makes a secret deal. Miles tells him to take Frank out for $500,000. Davis agrees without hesitation. As Ray, his son, and Frank trudge through the forest, it starts pouring. Visibility drops, and everything turns slippery and dark. They press on. Eventually, they reach a cliffside. Ray hesitates. It looks dangerous. Frank convinces him it'll be easier if he takes off the handcuffs. Ray gives in and unlocks him. They start climbing down, carefully. Frank's team reaches the top shortly after, but can't see them due to the fog and rain. They think they've lost the trail and move on. Suddenly, Ray's son slips and nearly tumbles down. Frank grabs him just in time, saving his life. His scream echoes through the forest, and one of the team members hears it, but they dismiss it as the wind or an animal. The trio finally finds shelter inside a nearby cave, soaked and exhausted. They decide to rest for the night. Just when Ray was digging into his bag to grab something, Frank saw a quick chance to take the gun away. He lunged for it, and the two of them got into a rough scuffle. The gun slipped from their hands and hit the ground nearby. Seeing his dad getting smacked around, Ray's son freaked out and rushed to grab the weapon. He picked it up and aimed it at Frank, yelling at him to back off or he'd shoot. Meanwhile, a fresh group of cops had reached the river where that police car was still sinking. A news reporter had shown up too, ready to broadcast the mess. Frank, who had just tried to fight back, was thrown back into handcuffs and handed some food while he sat there defeated. Back in the woods, the rest of Frank's crew had taken a break under the trees. Davis, one of the guys leading the chase, showed up asking what was going on with Frank. When they told him they couldn't track him down anymore, Davis refused to drop it. He got fired up out of nowhere and pushed the team to keep looking. Even though they were caught off guard by his sudden burst of energy, they agreed to pick up the search again in the morning. That night, FBI agents started showing up at the forest entrance. Miles was there, along with someone from the NSA. They told the local police to back off and officially handed over the whole thing to the feds. As the sun rose, Ray woke up Frank and the boy, getting them ready to move out. They started hiking downhill. At the same time, Frank's crew made it to the top of the hill and spotted the three of them disappearing into the trees. Overhead, FBI agents and helicopters began sweeping across the area, scanning for any trace of Frank. When Ray's son saw the helicopters, he tried waving and calling out for help, but it was useless. So the three of them kept walking deeper into the woods. Frank's old crew was still on their trail too, doing their best to stay out of sight from the choppers above. After hiking for a while, the group took a break near a stream. Frank leaned against a tree, talking to Ray while secretly watching the gun in his hand. He was trying to buy time, hoping maybe someone would find them, but Ray picked up on his stall tactic and ordered them to keep walking. Soon, they came across a couple bathing by the river. Ray and Frank walked over to them and asked if they could help call the police. Once the couple heard what was going on, they wanted nothing to do with it. They were like, "No thanks, we're not getting mixed up in this." But Ray managed to talk them into sticking around, and they all headed deeper into the forest together. Meanwhile, one of the helicopters hovering over the area spotted two guys waving at them for help. They landed to check it out and radioed the FBI that it was just a couple of hikers. But they had no clue those two were actually Frank's crew in disguise. The moment one of the pilots stepped out, Davis stabbed him. The other team member shot the second pilot, and just like that, they hijacked the chopper to help them find Frank. Back in the forest, Ray, Frank, the boy, and the couple kept moving until they hit a dead end where a Marine stood blocking the way. Luckily, there was a bridge they could use to cross over to the other side. Once they made it across, Ray had a new idea. He handed the gun to his son and told him to shoot Frank if he made a move. Then he and the couple destroyed the bridge, cutting off any chance for Frank's old team to follow them. Not long after the bridge collapsed, they heard a helicopter getting closer. Thinking it might be the cops, they all started yelling and waving to get noticed. But they didn't realize it was actually Davis and another team member flying it. When Davis spotted Frank, he tried to shoot him from the air, but the helicopter shook and the bullet hit one of the civilians instead. Ray grabbed his son and pulled him to safety as bullets flew around. Frank saw what was happening and realized Davis and the others had turned on him. He took off running through the trees. Once his son was safe, Ray went after him. The team landed the chopper and went on foot, planning to finish off both Frank and Ray. In the woods, one of Frank's former teammates found Ray and started firing at him. Assuming Ray was down, the guy got closer, but Ray sprang up and killed him first. Meanwhile, Frank spotted the helicopter with his team and ran toward it, thinking they were coming to save him. But Ray opened fire to stop him from escaping. After dragging Frank back to the group, they kept going until they found a run-down cabin hidden in the woods. They rushed inside, hoping to find a radio or something they could use to call for help. But after checking the place out, they came up empty-handed. With no other choice, they decided to stay the night. Elsewhere, Frank's former crew was still searching for him. After doing some digging online, they figured out there was an abandoned house in the area, likely where Frank had ended up. Back at the cabin, Ray started feeling uneasy, so he gave the gun to Sandra, the woman from the couple, and told her to keep an eye on Frank while he checked out the surroundings. Frank saw an opening and tried to talk Ray into taking off the cuffs. He offered a deal, let him go, and he'd spare both Ray and his son. Ray wasn't buying it and refused. Later that night, the FBI chopper spotted gunfire coming from the area and flew over to check it out. Frank's old crew had surrounded the cabin and were closing in fast. One of them stormed inside and smacked Ray's son with a gun. Ray, full of rage, beat the guy to death. Then everything broke loose. More bullets started flying at the cabin. Another guy from Frank's crew charged in with a blade, ready to kill Ray. Sandra jumped in, grabbed the gun, and shot the attacker dead. While all that chaos was happening, Frank managed to grab Ray's son and tried to escape. Davis spotted him and got ready to shoot, under orders from Miles. But the spotlight from the chopper messed up his shot, and Frank got away with the boy. The next morning, Ray and Sandra were found by the FBI and airlifted out of the woods. They were safe, but Ray's son was still missing. The feds promised they'd find Frank and get the boy back. Later that day, the NSA agent called Davis, chewing him out for screwing up. She told him not only to kill Frank and the boy, but to also take out Ray to cover their tracks for good. Sometime later, Ray was home watching TV when he caught a report about the funeral for a billionaire's son, someone Frank had already assassinated. The news said the billionaire dad would be attending the funeral. That's when everything clicked for Ray. Frank wasn't done. His next target had to be the billionaire himself. Ray tried warning the local cops, but they brushed him off. So he took matters into his own hands and showed up at the funeral. He scanned the crowd, and sure enough, Frank was there, hiding with a sniper rifle. Just as Frank was lining up a shot, he heard footsteps behind him. It was Ray, trying to talk him down and begging to get his son back. Before anything else could happen, Davis fired a shot, but missed. That's when Frank realized Davis had betrayed him too. He bailed into the forest and doubled back behind Davis, then killed him silently. Once Davis was out of the way, Frank tried to take the shot again, but the funeral was over and his target had already left. Frustrated, Frank started to follow the man, but Ray caught up to him one more time and begged for his son's life. After thinking it over, Frank gave him the key to a hotel room where the boy was being kept. Ray rushed over with the cops and found his son safe and unharmed. A couple of weeks passed. One day, while the NSA agent was picking up coffee, Frank suddenly appeared beside her. He warned her straight up, "Don't go after Ray or his son again." 2 weeks later, Ray was at a backyard barbecue, enjoying the sunshine with his kid and Sandra. While they were laughing and eating, the radio blared some breaking news. The billionaire had died in a boat accident. That's when Ray knew Frank had finished what he started. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video.